motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Your opportunity to show the world that you are the best female fighter in the world.
Yeah, definitely, because I'm a small girl from a small country, from a small town, so I'm not a big talker, and I'm not a big Instagrammer or YouTuber or something, so this stage is my time to show why I'm the number one, and I cannot wait.
And I believe her. I believe two-division, unified bantamweight champion Dina Thorslund when she says she can't wait, because for a very long time, she's been competing at a high level in the shadows, racking up quality scalps away from the eyes of the conventional boxing markets, the American market, the UK market, Central and South America. Dina Thorslund is in many ways the best fighter that you've never heard of, tucked away in her native Denmark in the calm, reserve, and stoicism you often see from those who hail from Scandinavian countries. She's not a big talker. She's not a big Instagrammer. Anything you want to know about Dina as a fighter, she shows you in the ring. This is perhaps the biggest fight of Dina Thorslund's career, though perhaps not the best fighter she will have ever fought. I think that would have to be Mexico's own Yuli Luna. Their unification match for both the WBO and WBC titles, though Yuli Hang, like Dina, was flying very low on the radar at the time. That is the crown jewel of Dina's resume so far, I think. But what makes this a bigger fight than that fight, it's not so much the opponent, but the stage. I don't think Dina's ever fought outside of Denmark before. There's that to consider, and the card that she's fighting on. The bill, the Taylor vs. Serrano trilogy promoted by MVP, broadcasted on Netflix, that giant platform. I believe that aesthetically, this fight is going to be a repeat of Dina's fight with Yuli Luna, but against an older fighter. An older, less accomplished fighter than Yuli Luna. Less accomplished than Dina Thorslund, too. Nothing against her, but Dina's seen a lot more fighters like Sharita Metcalf than Sharita has seen fighters like Dina. There's been a lot of emphasis on cutting off the ring and being able to pin down a moving target. After Turkey LL Sheik's shows in both Times Square and Saudi Arabia, what we saw from Devin Haney, what we saw from William Skull, that's what you can expect to see from Sharita Metcalf, with the difference being that Dina's dealt with a lot of fighters like that. Seen that style many, many times before and come out on top, and I expect her to do so in a big way, an even bigger way, in July on that undercard. I think she's motivated, not just because there are 3 alphabet titles on the line and it's a unification match, but because she'll be introducing herself to an entirely new set of eyes in the process. At a time when the boxing community at large is quite discontent with runners, fighters that fight by not fighting, if they can see Dina deal with that, finishing the fight in more dramatic fashion than, say, Canelo versus Skull or Ramirez versus Haney, that may endear her to them, that here you have a fighter, they're in there with a runner too, but they will deal with it in such a way that you will be entertained. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Dina scores a knockdown, maybe 2, maybe a knockout, because I don't trust Sharita's 40-year-old legs. They almost gave out on her in the Miyo Yoshida fight that I think Miyo Yoshida should have won. Sharita got very lucky to walk away with the decision in that fight. I don't think she's going to be so lucky this time, as Dina Thorslund is a younger fighter than Miyo Yoshida, and many years younger than Sharita. She can fight a better version of it, and I'm confident she can because I've already seen her do it. And that she's motivated. You know, too much of the same thing after a while can lead to complacency, just going through the motions, whereas Dina is now entering uncharted territory, new terrain, to make an even bigger impression on a bigger stage. That's all the motivation she needs. I trust that she will get the job done, and even though I don't think Sharita is the best fighter that she will have ever fought, this is the biggest fight she's ever been in. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Top Rank's Carl Moretti has told Ring Magazine that he's unsure if Vasyl Lomachenko will ever fight again. The IBF has given Lomachenko until October 8th to defend his lightweight title and plans to order a fight against the winner of Raymond Muratalla versus Zaur Abdullaev if he stays undecided. Believe it or not, it's already been a year since the George Kambosos fight for what was the vacant IBF title. It's been a year since that. That was in May of last year. And before that, Vasyl Lomachenko took on Devin Haney in May of the year before. So now, this guy's averaging about one fight a year for the last 3 years.
3?
They only fought once in 2022. That was the Jermaine Ortiz fight. He only fought once in 2023. That was with Devin Haney. And he only fought once last year against George.
3 fights in 3 years.
If you're looking for a more conclusive answer as to what Vasyl Lomachenko is going to do next, the signs are all there that his career is winding down, and it has been for the last 3 years or so, because he could have been more active if he wanted to be.
He was offered a Gervonta Davis fight that he rejected, and if you've reached the point to where you don't get out of bed for fights like that anymore, well, that says it all. And now, it's been a year since he last fought. Even though he's reigning IBF champion, some would say that he's been holding the red belt hostage.
Nothing against him, but I always questioned how far Vasyl Lomachenko would be able to go given his extended amateur career that he went through not just one, but 2 cycles.
2 Olympic Games, got 2 Olympic gold medals, but that puts a cap on how much time you'll be able to dedicate to the paid ranks, to the pro game.
Just a little over 20 fights, and it looks like he's ready to call it a career.
Hall of Fame run?
Well, this is where Vasyl Lomachenko seems like a man hard done to me, because I don't look at his resume as it is right now and think, well, it's Hall of Fame worthy. Not necessarily. The champions he fought: Rocky Martinez for the WBO at 130, Jorge Linares for the WBA at 135, Jorge Pedraza.
It's Jose.
Those are the champions that he fought, you understand? The guys that he actually won belts from. We don't do that whole former champion thing around here. That's just stat padding.
I think his resume would look a lot better if he didn't get jobbed, if he didn't get robbed in the Devin Haney fight, and he would have become undisputed champion then I would have said his Hall of Fame ticket is punched. But the way it is, I'm not so sure.
I don't know why they robbed him. I don't know why they gave the decision to Devin Haney that led to stinkers like what we saw in Times Square last Friday. But I just figure that if the right man would have won, if Loma would have got the decision that he deserved, then he'd definitely be a shoo-in to get into the Hall of Fame.
There was some talk of Vasyl Lomachenko having a back injury that he had to have looked at the beginning of this year. No word on that.
But at 37 years old, over a year out from his last fight, no tentative fight news, nothing incoming, not even a hint.
You can put 2 and 2 together. This might be the end of Vasyl Lomachenko.
It's been a fun run. Upstairs at Super Lightweight, the continued fallout of Teofimo Lopez's shenanigans, a Twitter user that goes by the name Hassan said, blocking anybody supporting Teo, saying the hard ER, not about to argue about that, it's ridiculous. Another Twitter user that goes by the name D. Sanders said the World Boxing Council took action against Ryan Garcia for racism. The WBA gave him a title shot, his first fight back at a new weight. The World Boxing Organization has been completely silent with Teofimo. Props to WBC for making a stand.
Another Twitter user that goes by the name JBZ addressed Gustavo Olivieri, WBO president himself, saying, "Where is a statement about Teofimo's actions?" To which Gustavo responded, "Hello, sir. We will convene next week to address this matter and other relevant events. Rest assured, we will carefully investigate any and all potential violations of our rules, regardless of the fighter, and proceed in accordance with due process, guaranteed."
So let me shed some light on a few things. While the World Boxing Council did take a stance against Ryan Garcia's openly racist tirade, it didn't require much from them. You see, Ryan Garcia was not WBC champion like Teofimo is WBO champion. So when they take a stance against what he said, it's really inconsequential. It didn't actually require anything of them.
It didn't require them to do anything.
Aside from releasing a public statement condemning what he said, where this situation is different. You're talking about a reigning champion now. So if what these guys are expecting is that the WBO is going to strip him, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't be mad if they did.
We all know who Teofimo has been targeting with the shenanigans and whose feathers he's looking to ruffle. He's looking to ruffle the black community's feathers. But he's doing it in such a way that I'm not sure the WBO can penalize him for it. Whether it's all his references to monkeys and the bananas that were sent to Keyshawn Davis's hotel room right before the Dennis Berenchik fight, Teofimo didn't confess. You understand? He didn't have an according to Hoyle confession where you can put it on him. Now, I think he's the one that did it.
But without an actual confession, this does get dicey. Can you strip him of the brown belt?
Can you take it from him on that premise? And what about his latest Instagram video, where it sounds a lot like he said the hard R? Now, some of you may be thinking to yourselves, well, wait a minute, this is a free country. Whatever he said, doesn't he have freedom of speech? And he does, but not freedom of consequence.
The behaviors you're putting on display may not be in line with what the WBO wants from their champions. Where it gets tricky is whether or not that's what he actually said. He's denying it.
He's saying he didn't use the hard R. What he said was liquor. Where is the liquor at?
I don't believe him. I think he knows exactly what he's doing and why he's doing it, but because he's denying using a racial slur, it gets dicey.
I think a lot of people within the boxing community would be happy to see the WBO strip him for his racial innuendo, but because he's not coming right out with it, I'm not sure that's how this is going to play out. It's really not like the situation with Ryan and the WBC, because with Ryan, they didn't have a belt to strip him of. All they did was condemn what he said.
And what Ryan said was a lot more brazen than anything we've heard from Teofimo, to where what Ryan said couldn't be mistaken for being anything other than racist, openly racist, whereas Teofimo is straddling the fence.
And on that premise, I'm not sure how the WBO is going to proceed. That just based on what we've seen and heard from Teofimo so far, is that enough for them to strip him?
We'll find out.
Teofimo Lopez himself on his social media said, "Culture vultures. I call it like it is. The truth is, I'm the only one who can rain on people's parades. Don't dab me if you think I'm a racist. Then ask for interviews. A whole bunch of victimized people who can't stand for something but fall for everything."
What do I think about what Teofimo Lopez is doing? I think he knows what he's saying, but also knows how to disguise it, using key elements and key words that are in some ways open to interpretation, but not for someone who's actually from over here. That if you say enough of the stuff that Teofimo's been saying about a certain group of people, it's gotta be on purpose. It's not by accident.
The dead giveaway isn't the monkey references or references to bananas or what happened in Keyshawn Davis's hotel room. None of that. The giveaway was when Teofimo Lopez was having a tantrum,
lashing out at Top Rank, and said, "You can keep all of your black fighters." I found that curious because whatever your beef with Top Rank might be, if you feel they're not promoting you, why would you bring up black fighters? And what do those fighters being black, what does that have to do with anything? Why would he have said that?
Why would he have made a reference to the fighters as race? He could have said, "You can keep all of your boring fighters, you can keep all of your fighters that don't sell."
He brought up the fighters as race, and he brought it up for a reason. I think it's because he's a bigot. I think it's because, well, he's a racist.
And in a fit of rage and frustration, that's what came out. So that later on, when he sees Ryan Garcia go on a racist tirade, and then he sees how many people defended him afterwards, he thinks he can do that himself. The difference is, well, he's not Ryan. He's not as popular as Ryan. He doesn't have people apologizing for him the way that Ryan did. So when you do that same thing,
you don't get that same safety net.
Teofimo once again took to his social media trying to distract people from what's going on by saying, in other news, who have you got September 12th on the Canelo versus Crawford undercard? Jaron Ennis or Teofimo, the takeover? Of 5,240 votes, 52% of voters have Jaron Ennis winning the fight.
48% voted for Teofimo, and I'm a bit surprised that he got that many votes because this is not Josh Taylor coming off an injury, a year layoff, and a controversial win over Jack Catterall. This is not Arnold Barboza, who's never been a remarkable fighter. I mean, I think that we all agree Boots is a more dangerous fight than any of those guys were.
I don't got the best track record with Teofimo's fights, I'll be the first to admit that, but I'm not the subject.
Do you guys think that Teofimo Lopez beats Boots?
And do you think he's serious about fighting him on Canelo's undercard? Because if he is, then I think that's something Jaron Ennis should explore. I'll say it again. Jaron Ennis' dream of becoming this division's undisputed champion is dead. He's not going to get Mario Barrios in the ring, or Manny Pacquiao if he beats him. Brian Norman is off to Japan
To fight Jin Sasaki.
There's already a mandatory for him in the queue in Shakram Gayasov, a fight that would seem like it's more trouble than it's worth. Whereas fighting Teofimo Lopez, if he's serious about fighting him, well, that's a more high-profile fight for more money. So if nothing else, Jaron Ennis should take this as an opportunity to hold Teofimo's feet to the fire, because he's become quite comfortable name-dropping Boots Ennis in interviews. So go see what the little guy is talking about.
I won't jump to bold presuppositions. I don't know how serious Teofimo is about fighting Boots or not fighting Boots. I don't know that this isn't just him clout chasing to seem like he wants the big dog in the yard.
Or if he's serious and he wants to take on the unified Ring Magazine champion. I don't know, but because he keeps saying it, if nothing else, it's something that Boots should explore.
Right now, for Boots, that might arguably be the biggest fight in the welterweight division left for him. Certainly bigger than a Shakram Gayasov fight.
Some might argue it's bigger than a Barrios fight, or bigger than a Brian Norman fight, because Teofimo is a more established name than those guys are. So because he keeps calling you out, answer the call.
You're free. You ain't got nothing else going on. Or is Teofimo Lopez only calling him out because he has a mandatory in the queue? Teo knows that, and he figures Boots won't answer the call because he doesn't want to forfeit his title.
Now is the time for Boots and Bozy to make a power move. Abandon the undisputed campaign, forfeit the WBA title Shakram if you have to, so you can go see what Teofimo's talking about. And if nothing else, you can expose him.
You can expose him inside of the ring if he's serious, or outside of the ring if he's not.
If nothing else, I think it's worth looking into, because what's not going to happen is undisputed. I can't stress that enough. That ship has sailed, and Boots ain't gonna get to do that, but he could do this.
Tell Eddie to call turkey and put it together.